All right, good afternoon, everybody. Everybody hear me okay? Awesome. So my name is Brian Allison. So I run what we call solutions marketing at SanDisk for our data center business units. I'm going to talk today about enabling and what we're doing at SanDisk to really enable that new generation of services, applications, and kind of open our minds a little bit and sort of this never before thought possible theme. Obviously, at SanDisk, we're talking about the prominence and the increasing prominence and what flash can really do from a data center perspective. I'm going to talk a little bit about it both from kind of that business angle as well as kind of from the technology angle, right, as we talk about this. Clearly, I think we all know that, oftentimes in our kind of IT landscape, we're talking about operational efficiency or cost reductions and those kinds of things. Often it's the business need that really drives IT. But sometimes, and I think this is one of those times with what's going on with the adoption of flash in the market, this almost can turn it around in the other direction, right? So like that technology and the things that we're able to do and able to work on and help you be able to do, really kind of opening up the mind to possibilities that, a lot of times we don't even think or historically have thought is really possible. So we'll kind of cover this from both angles a little bit, talk about a few different things, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. Just from a business angle perspective, right, just to start there, right? We all know this, right? Data's exploding like crazy. Who hasn't heard that data's exploding like crazy, right? We all know that. Different people have different estimates. I think it's IDC that says 40,000 exabytes by 2020, just as one data point. Are they right? Are they wrong? Are they off by a factor of 2 or 3 or 4 in one direction or the other? Doesn't matter, right? It's a huge amount of data. I know you're all dealing with this in your own ways, both whether it's a problem or whether it's an opportunity to go address and be able to take advantage of data to do some very interesting things in your businesses, your environments, which takes you straight to the customer impact, right? The business side of this is not about the data itself, is just data, right? If you can't use the data, or if the data isn't there to provide insights to help make better decisions, bring insight never before kind of really thought possible, whether it's things like Internet of Things or just scaling beyond, just in terms of kind of going beyond the typical, scale up kind of thing. But also the quality of service piece, right? So it's one thing to say we can do super high performance things, analyze data incredibly fast, make decisions in real time that we've never been able to make. But as we all know, right, things like that are novelty one day and new and exciting one day, the next day are business critical, right? So then it's all about quality of service and your users out there that can't even imagine, right, having something one day, all of a sudden it's the most important thing, and it's IT's fault if all of a sudden it's not working. So those are some of the things that we hear all the time when we're talking to customers and even our partners about some of the technology trends and some of the things that we're able to take our technology as SanDisk and bring to bear from a data center perspective and from a solutions perspective. So talk more about that. And even in our own terms, right? I'm not going to get into this today, but just our own use of big data and some of the things that we're doing in our own IT organization with data lakes, manufacturing processes, and the insight we're able to get from capturing incredible amounts of data, revealing trends about some of our processes or some of our quality and some of our chips or wafers, et cetera, that you don't get when you try to summarize. So I'm not going to talk about that much today, but certainly we see ourselves benefiting from these same trends. We use some of the things we'll talk about today in some of our own IT environments for that reason. But then, back to technology trends, right? So, if business needs is all about insight, it's all about, sort of capturing and being able to figure out things that we've never been able to do before. The technology side of that is, depending how you want to think about it, right? So some of us have been around for a while, have lived through at least some, if not all of these trends, right? Where you've gone from, the old mainframe type of paradigm, client server, right? Virtualization and all that has meant and continues to mean. Different types of virtualization technology, whether it's server virtualization or VDI or anything like that. And then hyperconverged, right? It's sort of the one, sometimes the newest buzzword. Disaggregated storage, to put even a more technical term in here, which is simply the ability to capture, the ability to measure and take advantage of large amounts of data sort of disaggregated or decoupled from the computing infrastructure, again, in ways that enables us to, or enables our customers to go do new things. And then scale beyond, right? So, anybody in this room not dealing with at least one of these trends on the right, whether it's web scale, petabyte scale, type of data management, objects, devices, incredible amounts of data, either that you're dealing with today or that you're planning for because of, the pressures on your environments or the things you want to do in the future that you can't do today or haven't historically been able to do. Again, right, just to sort of summarize a couple of different things, both from a technology and a business perspective. And again, I think seeing the ability to sort of break through the normal paradigm of, IT responding to business needs, which will always happen, but with a disruptive type of technology, new capabilities to be able to come in and kind of do the opposite, right? Almost inspire the business to do things that have not historically even been thought of as possible or haven't been able to imagine being able to do. Just one more slide on kind of another sort of market trend that we see in the market a lot, all the customers that we talk to, including many of you, I'm sure, is this, depending on how you want to measure the storage market, right? This particular slide defines the storage market as storage arrays, $40 billion business or $40 billion market today, dominated by, sort of a couple of sort of major trends at the infrastructure level, sort of scale up, right, being sort of one axis here, or scale out being another axis. But then it's, it's really not about the storage per se, as I mentioned a while ago. It's about what do you use it for? What do you use the data for? This is sort of a cut of some IDC data along with some other analysis to show how we see some of the different workloads laying out in this sort of scale up, scale out paradigm, both the relative sizes. You can imagine obviously shared virtual infrastructure, no surprise right to you in the room. That's a pretty large, pretty dominant trend in a lot of ways, but also high performance computing, database, whether it's OLTP, sort of traditional transaction work, or maybe the higher level analytics type of work, or even some of the more sophisticated, right, cloud, web architecture, kind of cloud application kinds of work. At SanDisk, right, and we kind of think about this as a view of the storage market. Where we're really trying to focus is in a couple of areas, right? One of the biggest ones being so-called software-defined storage, or we use the term software-defined all-flash storage systems because, again, as part of the dynamic and part of the value that we see being able to bring flash technology to the data center, and not just as a bunch of wafers or a bunch of chips, but as a full system, thought through end to end with some of the application vendors that we work with, and that obviously that you all work with as well. So to sort of wrap that all up, a little bit of a pithy phrase perhaps, a bit of a marketing phrase perhaps, but at SanDisk we really do believe this, right? We're actually building our business based on this paradigm and based on this foundation that we really are able to, we believe, and we believe many of you want to go this way, which is that new generation of applications, never before thought possible, right? And again, it's about how to even think about data at massive scale, petabyte scale, just to put a kind of bit of a boundary around it, right, plus or minus. Be able to process that data, do meaningful things with that, to be able to do meaningful things to drive decisions or drive insight in a time frame that's actually valuable, right, for your businesses or for your environments. So this is us, right? So if I could sort of capture SanDisk and what we are trying to do for you and with you in the data center, it kind of comes back to many of these sort of themes around that never before, thought possible thing, right? Just to kind of illustrate, right, a couple of examples and kind of bring this home specifically to flash, right, to flash storage and what that can really mean. It is, what we see, we sometimes see, almost every time we talk to a customer, it's a new amount of insight. It's something new that we learn, that customers might be doing that we hadn't thought about, or we're inspiring customers to think about something in different ways that they haven't thought about. We see this time and time and time again. And again, it's that solving things quicker, right? Just to use a couple of examples, right? It could be something like, this is something we've announced in terms of the ability, because of what we're able to do with some of our flash storage and the performance that that brings, to be able to bring micro-targeted, right, sort of cancer treatments, right, to cancer patients, based on their own DNA sequencing. I mean, how cool is that, right? I mean, it's hard to imagine something that's more impactful and more exciting than to be able to do something like that was, again, something never before thought possible until last year, right, at all. Or another example, right, the idea of, you're at the mall, you're at a store, you're walking by a store, some camera captures your face, does real-time analysis of who you are, presents an ad, right, at a billboard or something you're walking by, 10 seconds, 15 seconds later, right? Now, probably when I use that example, probably half of you are going, oh my gosh, that sounds horrible, right? Data privacy, blah, blah, blah. I don't want a bunch of people doing that to me. The other half of you are thinking, that sounds pretty cool. I think I would like that, or I think I could use something like that in terms of what I'm trying to solve in terms of my own environments. So it's that innovation, right? In terms of things like data lakes, in terms of things like web scale, web architecture, kinds of things. Again, back to that never before thought possible. Now, that said, I want to flip a little bit to another discussion here, which is sort of that other side of IT, right? Sort of operational IT, if you will, right? Depending on the analysts you may talk to or what you hear, you hear Gartner talk about mode 1, mode 2, for example. It's kind of their thing, right? Or you maybe hear operational versus transformational IT, where I've spent some time here talking about the transformational side. But the operational side is here as well. Over the last couple of years, culminating in kind of right now in some ways, or within certainly this year, we have seen flash technology, the price of flash, right, the price of data center grade, right, enterprise flash, come to the point where, and probably many of you are seeing this as well, where that cost-effective nature is starting to cause customers to move much more towards an all-flash or even all the way into an all-flash kind of thing, despite some of the other considerations, just because of cost, because of the lack of a need going forward with flash to do things like over-provision hard drives, right, for performance reasons, right? Anybody here relate to that, right? Anybody here not have over-provisioned hard drives for performance reasons in your infrastructure? Probably pretty much all of you do, right? So it's that thing here, and we've been able to take advantage, and I'll talk more about how we're able to do some of these things, but we've been able to start to see and work with customers such as yourselves to figure out how best to take advantage of this trend. Where is this capability most impactful in different environments, and then how to get there from here, right? Whether we're working with you directly, whether we're working through some of our partnerships, whether it's the HPs or Dells or whoever of the world, to help bring these things to fruition in your environment. So doing this all the time, seeing it more and more every day. So just to put a few sort of examples, right, against this sort of this operational IT, right, kind of side of this industry, right? I want to talk about a few things and just leave you with a few quick examples against these sort of typical five paradigms, right? We say flash excels where the data center pain is, right? So power, right? On a per gigabyte basis or per terabyte basis, whatever, we can, with some of our all-flash systems and some of our other devices and software, cut power by 15 sixteenths, whatever that is in decimal terms, right? That's a huge difference, right? Some of that has to do with the over-provisioning we talked about. Some of it's just the raw power on a per gigabyte basis for flash versus spinning storage. Performance, right? These are performance numbers at a system level, right? Not at the kind of flash device, right? PCI interface level or SATA interface level. It is system level performance, right? That we're able to see, that we're able to help architect and extract these kinds of performance figures, which again, eye-popping, right? 40 times faster is not just faster, it's game-changing, for example. Scalability, right? Where we have customers that have data center physical constraints for whatever sets of reasons, or some of that can even get to cost and economics, right? When we talk about not just the acquisition cost of storage itself, but the total cost of ownership, right? The power, cooling, physical space requirements, what we're able to do. For example, we have a system, some of you may be familiar with this. We introduced a system last March we call the InfiniFlash system. where we're able to put half a petabyte of storage into a 3U rack space, right? Pretty breakthrough. I'll talk a little bit more about how and why SanDisk is able to do that. But hopefully, any of these numbers surprise you? Raise your hand if at least one of these figures surprises you. Nobody. One. Okay. Surprised one person, everybody else, no surprise. Okay, that's great. Okay, so let's transition for a second from sort of the technology thing back to the building blocks and full solutions, right? Again, as I mentioned up front, doesn't really help a lot if storage is fast, but you can't really kind of reap the benefits of it end to end at the application side. So we do things like working with different vendors, different partners, all the way from kind of our flash media level, right? All the way up to and through data path optimization services, up to and including the applications themselves. So the icons at the top representing different things like retail or ERP, CRM, et cetera, for example. But being able to take that through end to end, either in an all-flash type of paradigm with something like our InfiniFlash system or some of our other server-based storage, or some of our software capabilities with our Fusion Ion products for database acceleration, or our caching capabilities through FlashSoft and some of the products there where we're able to sort of isolate and bring the benefits of Flash to a portion of the data rather than the full data. But again, bringing that through the stack end to end, right? So I'm just going to page through this for a second and then talk about, therefore, kind of bring this back home when we talk about end to end, what are our full stack, right? Excuse me, what are we really talking about? We're talking about things like how to make it work, how to make it different, how to make it be effective in an SAP environment, in an Oracle environment, in a SQL Server environment, how to really reap the benefits from a virtualization standpoint, working with companies like VMware to really make Flash and VMware really sing together. We're doing some things that we'll be announcing shortly, just about that as one example. So stay tuned for that. You'll hear about something soon as it relates to sort of the next step in our ability to really leverage Flash to drive pretty dramatic improvements in performance for virtualized server environments. Shared storage. I mentioned InfiniFlash already, but just to drill down on it for 1 second. Again, the shared storage system here, meaning our InfiniFlash system, again, half a petabyte in a 3U rack, right, or 3U of rack space. Software, as I talked about, with our FlashSoft offerings, open source contributions. One of the things that we've done, for example, with InfiniFlash is we have a Ceph offering where we can take the open source Ceph distribution. We've really tuned that and made that applicable to really bring the benefits of Flash into a Ceph environment, for example, right? Any Ceph users or evaluators in this room? Several? Okay, great. So happy to talk to you more about that as you would like. And then again, the building blocks, right? So from a drive perspective, a little bit more conventional here, but also very breakthrough in the sense of what Flash is able to do from a performance and reliability and economic perspective relative to historical spinning media. So these are our building blocks. And talk a little bit about the experience as a result. Just going to touch on a couple of these in the interest of time. As technologists, right, we love to talk about the stuff on the right. It's not about the stuff on the right. As you all know, it's about the stuff on the left, right? So whether it is things like, as an example, Sanford Health, our ability to, because of what we've been able to work with them, we've been able to help them get to their reporting by a factor of 6 improvement, right? 3 times faster boot times with some of the technologies there. Student records, right? Northern Arizona, same kind of thing. 10x performance improvement, 10x the number of IOPS, and you all know what that means in terms of the ability to drive better quality of service, better service level agreements between the application level and the end users and database and other. Cloud Plus, again, IOPS, right? Dramatic improvement in IOPS with the Cloud Plus in a cloud environment with some of our FlashSoft caching offerings, as well as some of our SSDs, right? Working in conjunction with each other to make that work and work well at a system level approach as opposed to just a component level approach. And then JD.com, right? So e-commerce shoppers, right? Performance density from an e-commerce perspective. Again, IOPS, pretty standard definition as you might imagine. But it's being able to, again, just a few examples here. There's many more on our website if you're interested in case studies. You can look yourself. You can talk to me or one of us afterwards and get more insight into some more examples and obviously at much more detail than we can put on a slide like this at a high level. Okay, just one sort of fun fact to know and tell, if this is of interest, right? Probably most of you don't know this, right? We actually power the top 12 worldwide internet properties and cloud providers according to IDC. What I like about the fact is not so much that we can do that. That's maybe cool from a bragging rights perspective or whatever, but as a vendor. But the real reason here, and the real thing that's interesting about it is, you all know, because some of them, right, some of you are some of these people, in terms of the level of technology integration, the depth of understanding of these kinds of technologies and offerings, and what they can do for huge scaled business and huge scaled infrastructure. And us being able to work with you to take some of that knowledge and capture that and bring that to bear in other environments as well is what's really interesting about this, right? It's not about the factoid per se. We beat our chest about it maybe, but it's really about what we can do to help bring those technologies to bear and help you do that for your environments as well. Okay, so back end to end, from just to take this from a slightly different perspective as we start to wrap up. I'll talk about this a little bit on the next slide, but again, between our core technology itself and some of the things that we're able to do as a vertically end-to-end integrated flash vendor. The partnerships we talked about, again, to help make these things work end-to-end, up and down the stack, whether it's tuning, performance, some of the technology work we're able to do behind the scenes with companies like Microsoft, SAP, Oracle, et cetera, as well as some of the software-defined storage vendors like Nexenta, like many others, right? Some of which you see depicted here. And again, aimed at those environments that are both where hyperscalers, cloud service providers, or large enterprises, or frankly, data centers of any size that have this kind of scaled requirement from a performance and or a technology and or a quality of service perspective. One quick commercial on SanDisk, right? I mentioned vertically integrated. You all know SanDisk is in the flash business. That's what we're all about. That's what we've been doing for many years. But the fact that we're vertically integrated allows us to do some pretty interesting things that most storage vendors aren't able to do. No time to get into all that now, but suffice it to say that we have that fab. We understand the technology. We build it. We build it end-to-end ourselves. Large patent portfolio, obviously, good financial strength. And then the customers, like I talked about a minute ago, right? Both end customers that we work with directly, as well as through some of our key partners, whether it's OEM partners like HP or Dell, or some of the hyperscalers and how customers may be using their offerings, and all the way through to the retail and consumer space. So really, at the end of the day, hopefully this has given you just a little bit of an introduction in terms of what we're up to at SanDisk and what we're trying to do to help you take advantage of this latent capability of flash and flash storage to really drive that extreme performance and or capacity and or immediate access to information at a very quick basis, again, to disrupt that status quo, and again, to open up the ability to take advantage of these kinds of technologies to allow you to do things that until recently, probably you or others in your environments never really thought could be done. All right, so that is it. Thank you for the time. We have time for a couple of questions if there are any. You can use the microphones if you want, or just talk loud. Or both. You can use the microphone and talk loud if that's what you wish to do. Sorry? What is the question is, what is SanDisk doing with the Open Compute Project specifically? That is a good question. I would not be the best person to answer that question, to be honest with you. I could take a stab at it, but I would probably get it about 60% right and 40% wrong. So I'm going to defer that question. However, I'm happy to grab your information and get that to you offline if you'd like that. Just give me a card or give me your contact information. I will make sure that we close the loop with you on that. Thank you for asking that question. Other questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you again for the time. I hope this was useful.